Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of the OD Sportscast. I'm your host, Dak. And today we are going to just do a quick little rundown of everything not just going on inside the NBA playoffs, but also the conclusion, the WNBA, yes, and then the NBA draft lottery as well. But we'll start off first with the Portland Fire game, and I'll talk mostly about this. The Portland Fire on Saturday kicked off their first ever regular season home opener in over 25 years. Yeah. And of course, it was a loss, as come to find out, obviously, since they're still rebuilding team. But of course, we're still brand new. I don't expect us winning massive games in the long run. Yes. Yeah, it did. 19,355 people. Definitely. Okay. Second quarter. Yeah, I got very happy about that for a 2nd. Mm-hmm. No, Chicago. Chicago Sky. I was a Chicago Sky. Yeah. You're okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, like Oliver said here, almost basically a sold out, Moda Center. And it kind of just goes to show that the city of Portland was waiting a very long time for another women's team to come back into play, because the only other women's team that I know off the top of my head that is women represented is the Portland Thorns, and a decent amount of people already go to Providence Park as is to see them in the Timbers, but they only play during a select few of home games throughout their season during the spring. And so now you bring in women's basketball back into Portland, back into play, and it really changes the dynamic of everything, just because you could tell this city has been waiting for a very long time to get their team back. And I'm so glad we did, along with the wonderful people who live in Toronto, Canada. Because I personally would rather, and this is just me, I would rather personally sit through a nice WNBA game than a Portland Thorns game. I'm not disrespecting any of the Thorns players or anything like that, or any of the fans. It's just, I'm not really into soccer that much, or people who are from Europe, anywhere, football. I'm just not that big into soccer, but if I ever get a chance to go to the games, then of course I'll go. But the fact that we have the basketball team back in back in Portland, it really tells you something. And I honestly like more the fast-paced women's basketball than having to watch, I guess, a Portland Thorns game. But again, no disrespect. This is just my personal opinion alone. And I mean, and I feel like, wonderful viewers, this is what you can take with a grain of salt. Is that, if you're a long life Blazers fan and you're just waiting for any massive offseason moves by the Blazers, their front office, and whatever they're going to do for the future to happen, well, you just gotta wait, honestly. I mean, and if you're really wanting to, and you're really craving basketball, like basketball in general, watch the Portland Fire. That's your basketball right there for the next, like, 4 or 5 months. Their regular season goes from May to September, believe it or not. That's their regular season, is from May to September. And then their playoffs begins around early October. It really goes to show that, I feel like viewership just also in the city of Portland will definitely gain more attraction for sure. And I'm very hopeful that Portland has the team back for sure. And this is something very interesting, Oliver, that I haven't told you about, but I don't know if you've seen from the last two or three games that have, including the preseason games, the Portland Fire have only lost by 10 points. Ain't that crazy? No. Oh, yeah, 100%. I mean, it really just goes to show that Portland and Toronto are both cities that are really passionate about women's sports entirely, and for those teams to come into the fold to expand the WNBA is quite exciting to see. And I mean, if you thought the expansion of Portland and Toronto was it to go to 15 teams, you're wrong. There's more. There's more coming. Literally, like, I haven't told you this, Oliver. Fun fact, the Connecticut Sun have been around literally since the beginning. of when the league started. But this is their farewell season. What they're going back to Houston, that's correct. I believe so. I think by 2028 they're adding like 3 teams. Like next year alone they're adding I think like about 3 or 2, so something like that. Be quite exciting though. So if you thought Houston was the only city, that's not the only city that's also getting a team. The other 2 teams that were announced that are granted expansion are the cities of Philadelphia. Philadelphia, you're getting a team. Philadelphia, and if I'm not mistaken, Cleveland. Those are the other 2 teams that are definitely got granted expansion and will be coming within the next few seasons. So it's an exciting time if you're really into women's sports in general, especially WNBA wise. And we'll continue to cover the Portland Fire and the WNBA in whole in the future. That is definitely not without a certain that we aren't going to. So yeah, let's move on to some other news real fast. We'll keep it still in Portland, but Mavericks we're going to talk about the city of Dallas real fast. The Dallas Mavericks had fired their GM a long time ago. They hired their new GM that was the former, I think, president basketball of operations from Toronto, from the Raptors. So then the Raptors, he's now the new president of the Mavericks. The Mavericks then went out and said, okay, who can we hire as our new GM to replace, the guy who traded Luka Doncic? I'm forgetting his name for some reason, but you know who I'm talking about. Wonderful viewers. Yeah. They went out and cherry picked us. They went out and grabbed our former GM, Mike Schmitz. This is about 3 days ago, but it doesn't hurt to cover it. But Mike Schmitz has had a interesting track record of drafting players. How do I say that? Oh, it's kind of interesting. Okay, the article doesn't really mention it, but I guess what was kind of the last straw for us, I guess, not to retain Mike Schmidt is him drafting Jan Hansen last year. Trading from the 7th pick down to, I think it was like the 15th or 17th just to get Jan. And we all thought that Jan was going to be something special. I mean, yes, he's still developing currently, but I don't see him being like the next Yao Ming or anything at all like that. I personally, if I had to go back in time, I would have kept Cedric Coward over Jan, and kept the 7th overall pick. Can't go back now. I mean, he is also the brains behind drafting Donovan Clingan. Basically, most of our starting lineup for the Blazers going forward into the 2027 season. Donovan Clingan, Shannon Sharp, because, a lot of teams oversaw Shannon Sharp. And so when we looked at him, we're like, okay, we could take a shot on this young prospect. So then we got Shannon Sharp, and then he's been electric since then. And I believe he was part of the dunk contest at All-Star break this year, or maybe last year. No, year before. Okay. And drafted Scoot. So yeah, he joined the office not to this specific date, but to, I guess, this month of year. He joined the Blazers front office in May of 2022. Was about to come to an end, yeah. Yeah, trying to think strategically to be bad to get a higher draft odd in the draft. Yeah. Top 10 in the regular season in blocks, by the way. Oh, okay. Yeah, I can see it. Yeah. Yeah. He's been bounced around between the G League and being called up to the Blazers, so he hasn't really found his spot as a rotation player in a sense. No. Mm-hmm. No, not everything, but oh my God. That would be horrible. If I was a Mavericks fan, I would have just said, yeah, I'm not supporting this team anymore. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's interesting, the current landscape of the Dallas Mavericks is interesting because Jason Kidd actually argued to be moved up as the president of basketball operations before the governor of the Mavericks was like, we're not going to go with you as our next GM. We're going to go with somebody else who has actual experience. I think that's kind of, yeah. No. Yeah. Yeah. Or like in the rebuilding because you could tell this team is definitely in a rebuilding mode right now. Well, yeah. they're not old, but like they're also injury prone. Yeah, I mean, and Kyrie, I expect Kyrie to go to. Yep. He was supposed to. Fun fact: he was actually supposed to come back this season, but the Mavericks were so bad that they shut him down for the seasons. And honestly, yeah, they went to take him out, which is honestly valid. But yeah, I mean, if I were the Mavericks, my top questions would be, okay, who's our star? Who do we want to build around for the future? I think that answer is actually pretty clear in Cooper Flag. And if you can somehow retain like Derek Lively, because Derek Lively, I think his rookie scale contract's probably about to come to an end. I'm not 100% sure on that. He was also out for the season because, he had surgery on his, his Achilles tendon or maybe his knee, something like that. So we don't know if he'll be back to his former self, but we can only find out next season. But also, continue getting your rotation pieces, finding your new Kyrie Irving. Not like actually like find Kyrie Irving, but like find a player that would fit really well alongside Flag and Derek Lively. Because Kyrie's gonna be turning 36 next season. Yeah, and he's due like a lot of money, and so the way I see it is try and trade and get some sort of asset for Kyrie, and if you can't do that, then just let his contract expire. Don't re-sign him, because I don't think he has he doesn't have a no trade clause currently, and I would just kind of try to give some roster flexibility and just let him go 100%. Without no question. Right. And honestly deserves, the Rookie of the Year award 100%. Yeah. Around that, yeah. Because he's also on a rookie scale contract. So he would be due some big money when that contract is up. I'm sorry to cut you off. Yeah. They went to the finals 2 years ago and then, obviously lost to the Celtics. No. I know, and I feel very bad for Indiana too. No, it was just bad timing, with the whole Tyrese situation of him, getting the ACL injury, then continuing the zero curse, and then later on during the actual regular season, even though he was never cleared, he unfortunately developed shingles and then was out away from the team indefinitely for certain period of time, and then now he's back and he's actually fully healthy, so we'll have to see it. Yeah, it's a very strange situation. I mean, and if I were and here's why I feel bad for Pacers fans too now, is because if you saw what happened to them after the conclusion of the draft lottery, man, that backfired so bad. Yeah, I mean, it backfired so spectacularly. They trade for Visa Zubac from the Clippers with that pick from the Clippers. The Clippers sent Zubac that 5th overall pick in the first round and some other things in the works in that trade. So they send that over, and then you got your center in Visa Zubac, a decently good starting center in the NBA. Visa Zubac, I will not doubt him. He's good, and he's pretty intimidated, so I don't want him beating me up. So just yeah. But yeah, he's good. No, I would say he's a top 20 center though in the league. Yeah, true. I mean, they had over 14% chance odds of retaining that 5th overall pick and then them drafting whoever they wanted. That backfired spectacularly. That pick got now flipped to the Clippers. And actually, it's interesting for the Clippers now because the Clippers were so screwed over for trading away, Paul George to Philadelphia, trading to Philadelphia. Well, they didn't have any picks at all this year, and I believe next year. They have the pick this year after the Visa Zubac trade, and congrats to them. Oh man, 35, yeah. He could still be considered clutch. I would say he still has that clutch factor. He could still play. I wouldn't say don't obviously doubt him or anything, because yes, he's really, when fully healthy and not injured at all, he could be one of those players that could be really effective for the Clippers. But once those injuries start striking, that's when the whole narrative can change. And I mean, I will give kudos to him. He took a Clippers team who miserably just fire Chris Paul during his retirement tour all the way back in October. Now from like they were like what 6-13 around that time or something like that. They turned it around over the next 3 months, and then it was a back and forth, 7th, 8th seed battle with Portland to make the play-in. Both teams obviously make the play-in. Same exact record, but unfortunately the Clippers got bounced out in the finals of the play-in tournament to the Phoenix Suns. But I will give them credit. They are heading in a good direction in terms of their rebuild for sure. It would just be more interesting to find out who they will draft in this upcoming draft. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So the top 15 picks, yeah, you got that correct. Charlotte was 14, and then you were talking about Oklahoma. Miami had the 13th. Okay. Golden State's got 11. It'll be interesting. Okay, that'll be interesting. Milwaukee. I mean, it was reported earlier this morning, and you probably read it somewhere that the Bucks now are publicly saying that they are opening the trade market for Giannis, even though we knew this was months ongoing, and they act like they weren't gonna trade him, and it's like, yeah, you could try all your best to keep him in Milwaukee, but he's shown he's unhappy and wants out. So let the brother go. Yes, Dallas, Atlanta 8. No, not really. And I mean, if I were Atlanta, I would also consider maybe moving Zachary Ricochet at some point during this offseason too, because he's kind of been a bust a little bit. True. Yeah, I feel sorry. That's what I was gonna say. No, I mean you're also paying a couple ridiculous contracts of Zach LaVine. I mean, luckily, yeah, he's got 1 year left on that. But I mean, you also got DeMar DeRozan, so who knows if he'll end up retiring or play next season? We'll have to wait and see. And I mean, some of the it's just bad contracts all around, and you're also paying Malik Monk $20 million as a rotation player as well. So hot mess. Yeah, they couldn't strike the gold. And I mean, the only bright star, not bright star, but I guess shine of light from Sacramento this season was Russell Westbrook. I mean, I loved watching Westbrook. I would imagine so, yeah. Sacramento, they do. Brooklyn. What's going on, Brooklyn? Ever since we're away from KD, Kyrie, and Harden, it's been not so great. I would say probably not. I think they would continue to build around him because their young core is so bad at the moment that they still need a veteran presence to lead them the way. And I think MPJ would still be a good asset for them to retain. Okay. No. On their 27 pick, yeah. No, yeah. Chicago Bulls. How do we feel about Chicago getting the 4th overall pick? This is their own pick, by the way. This isn't the pick that they got from Portland with pick 50. Yeah, Kentucky players or Gonzaga players. It's one of the two colleges. Ninth best odds. Oh, really? They're projected to get Cam Boozer. Okay, that makes sense, actually. Okay. No. Yeah. I mean, with Memphis, because Memphis is in full rebuild mode. Like they're still wanting to move Ja Morant somewhere. They've given up on him. Ja Morant could still be explosive if you give him the chance to be. So if he can get moved to the right team, because he's only getting paid about $42 million next season, and he's on a 2-year deal left. So if you can somehow move that'd be great for Memphis to do, and then just go full rebuild mode and proceed to do, build around. Because I had read somewhere they want to start building around like Zach Edey, their starting center, and then their small forward and Jalen Wells and so forth. Yes, and then they also shut Ja down for the season too. On top of that, and now I'm good. Yeah. For resting their starters. Yeah. Well, and we're still talking about. Are we talking about Washington now? We're talking about Utah. Washington. Okay, we're talking about Utah. Yeah. The way I see is I could see Washington and or Utah flip flopping, not like trading picks wise, but I guess selecting the players. Like I could see like Darren Peterson going to Washington, and because he plays as a guard or something like that. So he plays his guard, yeah, top 3, and then I could see AJ going to Utah, but who knows? Yeah, No, absolutely not. Yes, that's what I would think as well. No. Well, and here's a yeah, and here's the interesting aspect to look at like this. The Wizards, you know how they got AD from the Lakers, right? And as part of that, what was that Luka trade or whatever? It's interesting. Dallas got the first overall pick last year, drafted Cooper Flag. This year, here's the coincidence: Washington has AD, and they had the first overall pick apparently. And then guess what? And then Washington's probably going to trade off of AD at some point, ship him somewhere else, and then they'll probably get the first overall pick maybe next year in 2027 because he also has a bad contract. And, oh hell no, it's not the Blazers. I think if I were Portland, I would still continue looking at the Giannis idea, but not fully keep looking at Giannis, but just not fully be cautious about it. No, I would say probably because I don't think because they have Alex Starr on the roster, and he was a first overall pick a few years ago, actually. Second, okay. Well, yeah, and he's still developing, and he's looking like he could actually be a starting caliber center for the next maybe decade for Washington. That's if set aside from injuries and all that. I would say, and especially just get some cap relief from his contract. I think they do. Yeah, that would look bad for us, unfortunately. If a couple of teams I have in mind, so I'll just do like three for now. But like the three I'm thinking of is maybe Milwaukee. I could see Milwaukee going after AD just to because if you're AD for us, yeah, and then everyone's just losing their shit again. Yeah, no, but honestly, I could see Milwaukee probably doing it because like AD could still bring that defensive anchor presence when he's healthy, and they could at least probably try to build around Rollins and the rest of that crew still, and maybe involve Bobby Portis in some sort of trade as well. That's one team. Another team I could see probably Philadelphia. That's if they want to actually move off of Joel Embiid, because you would be trading for you'd be trading one bad contract for another. And I think Philadelphia would be kind of perfect for that to happen. So I could see AD going to the 76ers. And I guess one more team to throw out there, I would say, is probably not the Pacers, no. I would probably like to say Utah. I could see Utah maybe doing it. But yeah, I mean, those are a couple. Or even New Orleans. Yeah, I mean, and Ace Bailey's still developing as is. But, we'll have to see. And, I mean, another I guess, way of looking at it is what about New Orleans? New Orleans, I could see them maybe moving off of Zion, or they would move off of Zion, bring AD back in because he's originally from New Orleans. He could retire there. He would sign, maybe like a 2-year, like a whole, like I could see him going back to New Orleans, signing like a Damian-esque contract, and then proceed to retire as New Orleans Pelican and eventually work his way into the front office. The bubble ring, as most people call it for no reason. All because it was during COVID and they don't view it as an actual championship. It was in Disney. It's like, the way I view it is, here's how I view it, is that the Lakers rightfully won the title in 2020. That was a season that was meant to happen. Then COVID struck. Then we had to cancel it for a long time. And we should give kudos to Adam Silver back then for when we did. Because if he did not want to open the season and continue the 2020 season, then we would have just had no championship whatsoever. And yes. Yeah. No, I think those are kind of locked in. I thought? I'll let you finish. And then, yeah, that was way too obvious. Well, I would say 4 years because think about like the 2022 draft. 2022 is kind of obvious too. I mean, you drafted Cade Cunningham, and Pistons were looking for him. That was 21. 25 is the obvious one. No, that's the draft lottery. Yeah. All right, so the Golden State Warriors have extended their longtime head coach. Guess who? Oh, I don't know. Steve Kerr. 2 years, 2-year deal, locking him in he made over 17.5 million this last season. Really? I did not know that. well, big money for him, cheap money for Tom Dundon, but that's just me. Great. The way I view this signing is great for the Warrior, retaining a key piece of a fading dynasty is what I'm going to call it. But you're going to have to take a lot more steps into kind of phasing out Stephen Curry, because Stephen Curry is on the doorstep of retirement. I would say I think we should start taking the direction of let's go ahead and go into rebuild mode. Let's Steve Kerr first started in 2000. Oh, started in 2014. First started in 2014. Exactly. In terms of a full rebuild. Exactly. Yeah. You think he has 2 years? Yeah. May. Oh, yeah. Yep. I've heard about that. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, the way I view it is LeBron plays. If this is LeBron's last game ever, it was one hell of a career. Top 3 player all the time, top 2 basically. Go old time, broke Kareem scoring record. He's in the category for steal. He's basically in almost every category. Yeah. And the way I view it is the greatness of LeBron James. If it comes to an end tonight, I salute to you, my good brother. We will keep buying Sprite cranberries during Christmas time. Yes. But if it is not, here's the alternative sports theory I'm going with, is if he doesn't, the team that I see him going to, because if he's really wanting to go for that last title in his resume, I would say go back to Cleveland. A Knicks jersey. Yeah, I'm sorry. As much as it would be interesting to see, I don't see it. If we were talking about if we're talking about the Warriors from 2022 Warriors, then it would have made sense, because that's when you guys won the title. But now we're in 2026. LeBron. Lakers aren't getting any better as is without Luka on the court. No disrespect to Austin Reeves or anything like that, but they're not going in a good direction until Luka's return, and he's out. He's basically been out for the playoffs, and the Warriors haven't been good either, and they're more looking like in a phase of rebuilding than actually trying to go after another old veteran player in LeBron. Because we have to consider, when is Curry going to retire? How many seasons has he got left? Are we going to trade Draymond Green off of his bad contract? Who knows? Back to New York real fast. It's interesting because New York has such a built all around team that I just don't theoretically seeing LeBron going there. Because what would New York have to give up if it had to be a trade, or to make the cap room in a trade to get that to happen? I'll be watching that too. They're going to kind of, yes, very much so. That's LeBron. That was still the normal lottery system. It's been in place since 2019. Like I said, let's start going into full rebuild mode. We shouldn't be needing to keep, we're bringing in LeBron. I wouldn't do it. Well, yeah, keep him in the Bay and all that. Yeah. Don't piss off Golden State fans. They would not like that. Yeah, but yeah. That's Steve Kerr. And then San Antonio lost to Minnesota. Series is now tied 2-2. This is playoffs. Timberwolves tied up the series against the Spurs, and now it's 2-2. And we'll see who takes games 3 and 4, and possibly game 5. Game 5, yeah. My bad. I don't know if you saw in the same series, though, but the referees actually went after the head coach, Chris Finch, on the Timberwolves, I think, during game 4 or 3. And I was like, what are we doing? Why are we going after him? What's up with that? Yeah. They try to draw contact fouls a lot, but I can see they punch their... What did I tell you guys? I said that I have them going to the finals. We're closer. I'm not going to get too cocky, but at least they made it back to the Eastern Conference Finals. That's all I got to say as of right now. Ooh. Okay. That's how I see it. I personally, on an entertainment scale, when was the last time we also saw a Pistons versus Knicks Eastern Conference Final? Yes. Like we already know who's coming out of the Western Conference Finals. I mean, it's gonna be OKC. It's gonna be between Minnesota, OKC, and then yes. Well, don't doubt Anthony Edwards. I mean, he's been kind of in demon mode recently, so I wouldn't count him out as a yet. Absolute cinema. We are after the... Yes, definitely. So we'll come back and stay tuned for the coverage of the conference finals. Thank you guys for listening to this edition of the podcast and, our takeaways on the NBA draft lottery. Where will these teams in the draft lottery go next? Stay tuned and find out. Yep, definitely. I am your host, and we'll see you guys next time for another edition of the OD Sportscast.